Hello everyone, welcome back to KIS Online. Today is our lesson number 3. We're still on Unit 5 and our topic is about school life. Lesson number 3. This morning, we will learn about must and should. We will learn about must and should. Now, you should listen very carefully. Ready? Must and should are modal verbs. But before I will give you the rules, when to use must and when to use should, we will read and understand these 4 sentences first. Ready? Number 1. You tell an adult about it. You tell an adult about it. The correct answer is must. Of course, I gave you the correct answers already, but we need to realize why we use must. Again, let's go back to number 1. You must tell an adult about it. What about should, sir? Why not should? Why the correct answer is must? We will discuss later. Number 2. You blank study and help people. What do you think is the answer? Should. These are all correct answers. Okay? So number 2, you should study and help people. Now, can you spot the difference between must and should? I know you have the idea. Let's move on to number 3. People blank cheat. It's a negative. Remember, on our lesson number 1, we've learned about school life verbs. We identified whether it's a positive, a neutral, or a negative. This example is a negative one. And our correct answer is mustn't. The short for must not. Mustn't. Number 3, people mustn't cheat. Number 4, you blank be noisy in class. Noisy. Noisy. Is it a positive or a negative? Noisy is negative. That's why we answered shouldn't. Number 4, you shouldn't be noisy in class. Get it? Now, let's go to the rules. Question number 1. Which verb do we use for rules and strong obligations? Which modal verb do we use for rules and strong obligations? Can you tell me which number? Which verb do we use for rules and strong obligations? What number? It's number 1 or 2. Just choose between 1 or 2. Which of these 2 sentences specifies rules or strong obligation? Must. Therefore, we use must for rules and strong obligations. One more. Which modal verb do we use when we give an advice? Which modal verb do we use when we give a recommendation? Based on our examples, The answer is number 2. Number 2. You should study and help people. That's an advice. You give a strong recommendation. And it's a positive advice. But here, for number 1, you give a strong obligation. You must tell an adult about it. Got it? Okay, we move on. Which sentence? Which sentence that we use a negative modal verb must? Of course, number 3. Which verb do you mean you're not allowed to? Mustn't. Mustn't. It's a rules, but written in a negative form. That's why we use mustn't instead of a must. Meaning you're not allowed to. You mustn't do that. Otherwise, something might happen so badly. Mustn't. What about you're giving an advice that you should not do? You're giving a recommendation that you shouldn't do it. Your answer must be shouldn't. Shouldn't.